Woohoo! We are live. Okay. Guys, we're officially live. Before we get started, let me get the Instagram live up as well. It looks like we are live on IG. Well, perfect. And guys, if you're live on IG with me, go to the link. Come on over to the YouTube. Link is in bio. Cool. Just making sure that the people over on IG know how to get over to the YouTube. All right, guys, good afternoon. I'm sorry about starting a little bit late. We just got a great call from our insurance company. We had a insurance claim for one of our properties that looks like the claim is going through. Super excited about that. We'll be getting money back. Owning properties is fun, right? When you have insurance claims, when you have quick story, this is going to be a fun one. For any of you that are interested in being landlords, let's pull the microphone in so you can actually hear me. For any of you that are interested in being landlords, here's what happened. We had a property that in February, we had the tenant leave, right? So they vacated the property. They actually left January 17th. When they left, they turned utilities off and they went downstairs into the basement and actually turned the boiler, not the boiler, the gas heater into the off position. So they actually turned off the heat for the property. Then they left the back door open. Now, I don't know if they did this on purpose or if it was an accident. I'm going to assume it was on purpose because who turns off the heater and opens the back door? They did this in 0-degree weather. Unfortunately, this caused freezing all throughout the basement, all throughout the pipes. Luckily, our pipes actually had a crack in one of them, so water was able to seep out and expand more on the outside versus the inside. So it helped reduce damage, but it still produced a lot of damage. So we did a insurance claim. We're getting money back for that. All fun. So that was that call just now. But let's talk about why you're actually here. You didn't come here to listen to me talk about our real estate, our rental properties. No, we're here today because we're talking about basically why you're struggling to attract the success you're looking for. I was doing a Facebook post. If any of you were on my Facebook earlier today, you would have read the Facebook post I made where I talk about the law of attraction and does it really work? Because a lot of you have been reading about the law of attraction. You know about the book, The Secret. You've listened to all the tapes. You say your affirmations, and then you're still in the situation where you're not making the money you want to make. You're not in the relationship you want to be in. You're not in the sort of shape you want to be in. You don't live in the home you want to live in. You don't drive the car you want to drive. And it starts to make you question, does this law of attraction stuff even work? Is it all BS? Is it just marketing? Is it a gimmick? I'm going to just dispel everything right now from the start. So if you don't have time to watch this entire video, law of attraction absolutely works. How do I know? I'm a living product of it. I'm a living testimony of law of attraction on being able to create the life I want, have the results I want, doing things that I once thought was impossible. It works. But let's talk about why it isn't working for you. Why hasn't it? Up until now, why has it universally, historically, let's say, why do you feel like it hasn't been producing results in your life? Okay, first, when I sit down with people, I have clients that come to me and they are in this place where they say they want to accomplish goals, but the truth is you don't know what your goals are. If you're not attracting the desired life you want, I can argue that 90% of the time it's coming from a lack of clarity around what your goal is, and you don't have specificity around it. Your goals are vague. See, what happens is vague goals get vague results. Vague goals, it's like vague questions get vague answers. Vague goals produce vague results. You have to be more specific in what you desire. So often I hear the answer to the question of what do you want? Well, I want financial freedom. I want to get my first deal. I want to make more money. I want to be in a happy relationship. I want to be happier. I want to be healthier. All of that's awesome. And that's not a bad place to start. But what does it mean? Okay, think about this for a moment. If I were to ask you, what do you want to accomplish? And you tell me that you want financial freedom. Well, my question to you is, what is financial freedom? Because I have a definition of financial freedom and you have a definition of financial freedom. If you'd asked me in 2019 what my definition of financial freedom was, I would say $5,000 a month. If you can get me to make $5,000 a month, I felt like that would be financially free because I was living at home with my mom. I had basically like my expenses were a couple $100 a month. It really wasn't much. My mom fed me. I didn't have to pay rent. I just had like my cell phone bill and stuff like that to cover. So I was a very inexpensive life. And so 5,000 a month, I'm making basically at that point, 5 times my cost of living. I'm financially free. I'm good to go. Nowadays, 5,000 a month, I'm just like, wow, that's not a lot of money at all. It's only 60 grand a year. It really isn't moving the needle in any meaningful way. So my definition of financial freedom has changed. My definition of financial freedom has moved to a place where we're like, hey, we need to be doing between $20,000 to $40,000 a month of active income. My net worth needs to be increasing between a quarter to a $500,000 a year at the bare minimum. And I need to be able to have the time freedom to go out and travel when I want to travel because I prioritize traveling. And so that's my current definition of financial freedom. And so you want to be able to define what you want with a little bit more specificity. If you're trying to attract it into your life, how are you going to, the question I like to ask people is this: how are you going to know when you've accomplished a goal? So if you're like, I don't know how to describe what I want. Well, it's simple. What would have to objectively be true in your life? So observably true. What can someone come in and see and notice about your situation and understand by noticing that you have hit your goal? And so for you, it might be like my buddy Jesus always says, hey, when you see me walking around with the platinum chain, that means I've made it. He's like, because that will be an objective feature that shows you that I've hit my goals. I've hit my financial goals. I've hit my personal goals. I've hit my professional goals. So when you see that chain, for you, what is going to let you know that you've accomplished your goal? Get clear in deciding what you actually want. And the interesting thing about clarity is how do I put this? Noah, you would know this from listening to me in the past. A lot of people think clarity is something you find. It's not something you find, it's something you create. You think clarity is out there, that you're waiting for this, for lack of better terms, divine intervention. And I'm all about like sitting down, praying, having time in silence, letting things come to you. I am 100% about that life. And at the same time, clarity is something that I believe comes while you're in it. Clarity is something that you start to uncover as you move forward and take action. As you start to go out and create it, clarity becomes more clear. You create your clarity. You don't discover your clarity. You create your clarity. Clarity is a decision. Clarity is a commitment to completion. That's what clarity is. And so stop copping out with, well, I'm waiting for it to come to me. Well, how's that been working out for you? Seriously, like how much longer do you need to wait? Is it going to come in a year? Is it going to come in 10 years? Is it going to come in 15 years? You have to go out and create it. And so the reason you're not attracting into your life the things you desire is because you haven't set the target. You haven't said, this is it. This is the hill I'm willing to die on. This is my do or die moment. This is what I will fight for. This is what I will force. I'm placing a bet against, I'm basically telling the universe, I'm telling God, like, look, I want this so badly. I am willing to stake my life. I'm willing to trade in my life for this thing. That's how serious you have to be about it. And then you're going to start to find that it starts to come to you. Now, it's interesting when you start to set this level of, I'm staking myself up against this. I'm willing to bet on my life. I'm willing to bet, because by the way, if that sounds a little extreme, then I'm telling you, you have to bet your life for the thing you desire. Is it really that extreme? What is your life if not a passing of moments? If it's not, what is it if not your time, your moments, your experiences going by? You're already spending your life. Like right now, as you're watching me, you're spending your life away. You're trading your life right now as we speak. But what are you getting in return? When you set a clear desire or a clear goal and you're saying, look, I'm willing to trade my life towards this, you start to get obsessed. And so there's this healthy amount of obsession that I'm focused on this. I want it. And now I have a desire for it. And so in order to start to bring it into your life, here's the interesting, this is where it gets paradoxical. You have that desire. And then on the flip side, you have to create this internal state of being where you are good if it does or does not happen. So you have a desire, a strong emotional connection towards and for this thing, so much so that you're effectively saying, I'm willing to trade my life for it. And at the same exact breath, you're saying, but if it doesn't happen, I'm cool. And if it does happen, I'm cool. Internally, you change your own state to a place where I'm good if it does, I'm good if it doesn't. There's a definition of the word manifestation that I like to give people. And I want you to write this down. Manifestation is changing yourself internally to a degree where you are no longer emotionally dependent on seeing your external reality change. I'll say that one more time. Manifestation is changing yourself internally to a degree where you are no longer emotionally dependent on seeing your external reality change. When you learn to disconnect from the end result, it allows you to be present and it allows you to pull forward the things that actually are necessary that begin to unlock and create the what we call quantum leaps that jump forward to synchronicities. All of that stuff starts to come when you're able to release, right? Relax. It's in a state of relaxation is where the good starts to come to you. But that can't happen, again, first and foremost, if you are not clear on your goals. So go and get clear on the goals. Sit down and decide what you want and make sure it's something that you want for you. I've seen so many times where people will pick a goal based on it's a logical goal. And this is actually an issue. If you're choosing goals purely based on logic, if you're choosing goals based purely on, well, this sounds good to everybody else, there's not going to be enough sticking power. It's not going to be intrinsically valuable enough for you to continue to decide to make that trade of I'm willing to trade my life for this thing. As an example, guys, I love making content. I love talking about mindset. I love talking personal development. I love talking subconscious reprogramming, conscious, like all of this stuff is up my alley. I don't seem to get bored of these conversations. Oddly enough, I've been waiting for the day where it's just not going to interest me anymore. And that day just hasn't come yet. So maybe it will in the future. I'm never going to say never. But right now, I do love this conversation. I love being able to talk like this, even if no one else were listening. And so, with that being the case, I've made up my mind that I want to pursue this to the point where I'm able to affect millions of people. And now I've been in a place where I can count that I've affected thousands of people, not millions yet, thousands, right? Through the videos I've made, through the content, through speaking on stages, through the people I've coached in my program, through the people that have joined my community. And so I know I'm able to have an effect on people. And I've made up my mind that I want to pursue the world of personal development, to pursue the life coach aspect, to pursue the inspirational, motivational speaking, to get better at that skill set. And effectively, this is the sport that I want to play. This is my professional sport, if you will. And I want to be as good as I humanly possibly can. Arguably, I want to be one of the best, which each day, here's what's funny. Each day, I'm learning more about what that means. And so I'm bringing more of it into my life. It's not complete from day one, right? Like I don't pop out and just instantly discover clarity. Like it keeps getting more clear. I keep noticing different things along the way. And so I want to bring that to you. That concept, that idea that your clarity is going to be uncovered in the process. That it's after you take that leap of faith. It's after you start walking down a dark path that you start to uncover what direction you need to go to next. Okay. Now, I see some questions in the side chat. So, guys, and if you have questions, go ahead and throw it in the side chat. If you're on Instagram, come over to the YouTube because I don't see the stuff on YouTube, on Instagram. I see the questions on YouTube, but I'm going to pull this up here. Noah says, when your thoughts aren't your own, you have to continuously reprogram and rewire what you think. From my experience, so that's why I think it doesn't get boring for you. I love that. So I absolutely love that. All right, so let's keep going here. Another reason I'm seeing that people struggle with, I'm going to say, manifesting and attracting the results into their life is their imagination, their thought faculty is weak. When I say it's weak, I'm saying that to point out nowadays, because of technology, I love technology. I love the internet. I love YouTube. I love Instagram. I love all the social medias. I love Netflix. I love watching movies. I love technology. I love AI. However, it has stunted the imaginations of a lot of people because your imagination is this image making machine that your mind has that you have the ability to control. You can conjure up images, you can conjure up worlds, you can conjure up videos and reality and music and all that stuff inside your head. However, because we get fed it so quickly and so easily through these, we don't exercise our own image making capacity, and our imagination, it starts to atrophy. Think about when you were a kid. How easy was it for you to imagine and daydream up a new world and then totally get lost in that world? Totally begin to live as if, right? You thought of yourself as an astronaut, and before you knew it, you're running around the house, but in your mind, you're not in the house, you're in Mars, you're on space, you're on another planet. And it seems like silly when you look at a kid and you're like, what the heck is that kid doing? Well, what's funny is the CEOs, the highest paid CEOs, the people that innovate and change the world, they still have that depth of their imagination. They still have that strength of their imagination. That's what allows them to conjure up and see the world not as it is, but how it can be. And then come out and effectively communicate the way they're seeing the world with so much conviction, with so much detail that other people can catch the vision, they can catch the image and begin to create it as well. That's what an excellent leader and communicator does. They leverage their imagination to see the world for what it could be. They visionary it, right? They engineer it with their vision, and then they share that vision with the world and their employees and their partners so that the rest of the world can help them build that vision. Your imagination has atrophied. And as a result, you're having a hard time attracting new things into your life because you've only learned how to create images based on external circumstance. Your images internally are you now taking what you're seeing externally and bringing it inside versus doing it the other way around, building it internally and then impressing it on the external world. This is how you start to change your reality. This is how you start to change your situation. You have to begin to be able to see your situation for more than what it currently is. And that's an exercise and a use of the imagination. And so something that I did years ago, and it's kind of funny that I did it like as a total joke, as like a, not even a joke, but it was an experiment. See, I would read these books on personal development. And what I learned, by the way, is like you can read all the books on personal development. It doesn't change your life until you begin to implement what you're reading. So these books would tell me to meditate. They would tell me to say affirmations. They would tell me to do this and that. And I would actually apply it. I would start doing it. And one of the exercises, I didn't read this in a book, but it just made sense to me because it was talking about visualizing. And there was one day I was trying to visualize the sort of home I wanted, and I was having a hard time really putting a picture there, like seeing it. They said, see it so clearly and like live in the moment and walk on the balcony and get out of your bed in the morning and go to the kitchen and smell the bacon and smell what you're going to eat for breakfast. And it was just really getting all of your senses involved. So it wasn't even just a visualization. It was more of a virtualization where it's almost like you're in virtual reality with all of your senses involved. And I was having a hard time. And I remembered I had this thought that, well, what if I can exercise my ability to see more clearly and enter into these virtualizations, these visualizations by practicing with smaller uh, items of being able to conjure up. And so I called my buddy Justin. Shout out to Justin. I called him up on the phone one day. I was like, hey, would you be down to do this weird experiment with me where I want to have you close your eyes and I'm going to describe things. And I want you to picture what I'm describing in as much detail as possible. And I want you to see it to the point where it feels like it's real, like it's right in front of you, like you can hold it in your hand. And I would start off with things that were basic. I'd be like, hey, like, all right, I want you to see a yellow rubber duck. Okay, do you see the yellow rubber duck? Okay, about what size is it? And like I'd have him explain to me and speak through how big it was, what does it feel like, what's it smell like? And then he would do the same thing to me. I would close my eyes and he would have me start to imagine. And we started exercising our ability to imagine and see things that weren't real as if they were real. And what I found was that actually translated directly into my ability to sit down and visualize things in my life. And what's funny is that was around the time right before I got my motorcycle. And when I got my motorcycle, I bring this story up. I don't tell it too often, but I bring this story up because it's an example of how I manifested something faster than I've ever manifested anything ever before. See, my buddy Mike, he got this motorcycle. He had a brand new Harley Roadster. And one day he calls me over. You got to come see this bike. I go over to Mike's house. He opens the garage, and there it is, shiny, pearly. I mean, this thing is pretty. And I sit on it. He's like, "Yo, you want to start it up?" And I start it up, and I'm like, I can feel the bike rumbling underneath me. I'm like, "This is sick." Now, I've always wanted a motorcycle since I was little. Wanted a bike since as early as I can remember watching TV and seeing a motorcycle. And when that moment happened, my desire for a motorcycle went into overdrive. My imagination started to go into overdrive, and I started to see myself. I would go home and get ready to go to sleep, and I at nighttime I would imagine and just like see myself riding a motorcycle. And what's so funny is from that day that Mike let me sit on his bike, 3 weeks later, I had a new motorcycle in my backyard that I got. And by the way, when I did this is why I know it was like a manifestation thing. I didn't have the money, like, I didn't have a budget for the bike. I didn't have any prospects on where I was gonna get the bike. I wasn't even really looking for a bike up until then, but the desire had gone into overdrive, so I got clear on this is what I really want, and then my imagination started to kick in where I started to see it clearly. I could see the bike. I could see me on the bike. I could see the exhaust under the seat. I can see all the things, and when I got that bike, what's so fascinating about it is the way it came to me was from like a friend in high school. His uncle happened to have these two motorcycles that were in the garage at his girlfriend's house, and one was his and one was the girlfriend's, and neither of them rode the bikes anymore. They had barely any miles on it, and he just wanted to get rid of these things for next to nothing. And the money for the bikes, out of nowhere, my job just started asking me, "Hey, do you want to work extra? Do you want over hours? Do you want this? Do you want that?" So I end up getting the money, and the bikes all came along. Like, the reality, like, God basically created a straight path to the bikes. And I was like, this is insane. Insane. I've always kind of vaguely wanted a bike, but when it got clear, when it became crystal clear, this is what I want, when my imagination started to go into overdrive of me seeing it, within 3 weeks, the bike was in my backyard. And so you got to start exercising your imagination. Exercise that part of your brain that lets you see what you desire. See it in your mind. If you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hands. It's a very true thing. Athletes at the highest level sit down and they visualize their movements. In fact, if you guys have ever watched the Blue Angels, this is the I believe they're in the Navy. These are the guys that fly those fighter jets. Typically around like 4th of July, they'll come over to cities and fly, and they're doing these crazy maneuvers. And when you watch them train, the way the Blue Angels train is they will actually sit in a room together. They close their eyes and they visualize and they see themselves flying the jets in formation all together. It's that powerful. Leverage your imagination. If you're not working and leveraging and using your imagination, I'm telling you, you are leaving behind one of the greatest tools that God has blessed you with, that you've ever been gifted with. It's your imagination. It's the ability to see the world for what you want it to be. Okay. Now, here's an interesting thing. Another reason I see that a lot of people struggle with the law of attraction. And when I say the law of attraction, let me clarify this. The law of attraction is working 24/7. It has been working since the day you were born. It will continue to work until the day you die. It's like gravity, right? Like, I'm not telling you how to turn gravity on and off, right? Like, you can't turn law of attraction on and off, but instead, how do you position yourself to be able to work with gravity? How do you position yourself to be able to work with the law of attraction so that you can get the result that you want? What's up, Tiffany? Still in Vietnam? So, the way you start to position yourself to work with the law of attraction, one of the things is you have to learn how to let go. All right, what do I mean by that? When you are wanting to manifest and you're wanting to attract things into your life, attraction comes in a form of relaxation, not tense. You can't force. When your brain, the best way I know how to think about this is I use relationship analogies all the time. If you're wanting to get into a relationship with somebody and you're forcing them, you're trying to tell, like, you have to go on a date with me, you have to like me, you have to love me, you have to spend time with me. That's never going to work. We know it would never work. But yet we try to do that with the results in our life. We try to force. No, things come to us in a form when we're relaxed, when we're able to let go, when we allow things to pass through us, that more actually comes to us. And so there's a lot of times where you're holding on to tension and trauma from the past that is no longer serving you, and it's preventing you from relaxing enough to allow the flow of life, the flow of energy to come into you, through you, and create the result you want in life, that you want to see, to move on to the next level. And so, what we've got to do is we've got to learn to go back and actually process the old traumas in there. And what's funny is I used to be very much in the mindset of you don't need to worry about the things that have happened in the past. They're in the past. Like, let it, like, just forget about it. And I realized a lot of people, like, when I say that to mean you still have to process what's happened in the past. I can't change what occurred in the past. I can change what it means to me, and I can change whether or not I continue to carry it going forward. And so oftentimes you have created this false illusion that you've dealt with it because you've effectively been able to push it down. And then basically it seems like you've taken care of it because you've gone on to do other things, but really you're just carrying this with you. And there's an analogy I heard that has been sticking with me. And it goes something like this. Imagine for a moment that you're out hiking and you get a thorn, and this thorn goes into your side so deeply that it's creating a lot of pain. Now, when a thorn's in your side, you have two options. The first is to obviously pull the thorn out so that it no longer hurts you. And the second option is to make sure that nothing touches the thorn, because anything that touches it is going to aggravate it. And so let's just say you opt in for option two, right? Like, you're like, I'm not going to pull it out because pulling it out is going to be uncomfortable. Just don't touch it. I'm just going to not touch it. Well, what happens if you want to continue your hike? What do you need to begin to do? You now need to, like, bushwhack and knock away all the extra branches and brushes around you so that nothing can accidentally brush against the thorn and irritate it. So you've literally have to, like, push things out and away from you to clear the space for you to go through. So let's say you're able to do that. Let's say you have the extra energy, you've got the machete, and so you whack away all the trees and branches. Cool. But then you get home that night and you want to go to sleep. And the issue is, when you go to sleep, you have a tendency to roll in your sleep. And so now, while you're rolling in your sleep, you accidentally roll over onto the thorn, and the pain alerts you, wakes you up, and you're having trouble sleeping. And so this is an issue because sleep is important. And so you start to get hyper obsessed with, well, how do I get back to being able to get good sleep? I need to invent something that can cover my thorn without moving me around so that at nighttime I can sleep. And so let's say you invent a machine, and this machine covers the thorn in your side and allows you to sleep at night. It prevents you from moving. And you're so happy because now, guess what? You can sleep. You have a good night's rest. And in fact, you're so proud of your invention that you start to tell other people because you want to share this solution with the world. For all the people who are suffering with the thorn in their side, you now have a solution that allows them to sleep peacefully through the night and get the energy so that they can live a normal life. And guess what? Your machine's a hit. All the other people in the world who have the thorn in their side are like, I need that, I need that, I need that. And sure, the machine is big and clunky and cumbersome, but it allows them to sleep. I mean, it's giving them their peace back. They get to sleep at night. And so your machine sells and you become extremely successful, and you got this company around this machine. And so now your life is starting to revolve around this machine that is preventing the thorn from coming into your side. And with the success, you're getting into new circles and you meet new people. And one day you meet the love of your life. And I mean, you two hit it off instantly. Sparks are flying. And what's interesting, though, is when that love comes to embrace you, to give you a hug, ooh, they irritate the thorn in your side. Now, you want to be intimate with your partner, and you're thinking to yourself, like, what can I do? And so you start to build this machine, like, man, what if I could take that machine that lets me sleep at night, and it was portable, it came with me, and it acted as a protective layer around this thorn, and that would allow me to hug my partner. And so you go to work, and guess what? You now create a mobile version of this machine that covers up the thorn. It protects you, and it allows you to not only sleep at night, but now you can also hug your partner. I mean, you put this on the market and it sells like crazy because all the people look at it. They now have freedom again. This thorn is no longer preventing them from loving who they want to love. It lets them go and travel and go around the world. I mean, of course, you have to modify your home a little bit, make the doors wider so the machine could follow you because you had to put this machine on wheels so that it can follow you around, but nothing is going to irritate that thorn. And this is what people do with their traumas. Rather than removing the trauma, what they do is they start to carry the trauma around with them and they start to find ways to protect themselves from irritating it. And you think you're free of the trauma, you think you've come up with a solution, but in fact, your entire life revolves around the issue, around the thorn, and not letting anything accidentally agitate it, not letting anything accidentally bring it up. You're walking on eggshells in your own life because you haven't yet learned how to release things from the past. Isn't that crazy? Now, we know what the obvious solution here would have been. The obvious solution would be remove the thorn, pull it out from the side, which is going to cause discomfort. Of course, it's going to cause discomfort. There's pain and issue and problems that you're dealing with that you haven't addressed yet. There's issues from childhood, whether it was fear of rejection, abandonment, people made fun of you, whatever it is, insecurities that typically were created, that these thorns popped into your side at a young age. And instead of allowing it to pass through you, you held onto it, you clinged onto it, and you shoved it down because it was so uncomfortable in the moment that you didn't know how to relax through the discomfort. We've got to learn how to relax through the discomfort. And so how do we deal with it, right? We release it. How do we release it? It's simple. We allow it to come back up. Like when the next time something triggers it, the next time something brushes against the thorn in your side, rather than immediately suppressing it and pushing it back down like you've always been doing so that you can keep carrying it around with you. No, instead, allow yourself to feel the discomfort and relax through it. Have the uncomfortable conversation. Let the anxiety rise for a bit and work through it. Allow it to pass through you. You're not the anxiety. You're not the trauma. You're not the story that you've been telling yourself. It's such a fascinating thing. One of those things when I meet new people and I'm talking to them and they start to describe to me who they are and they start to define themselves with their past traumas, it's so interesting to see how I'm brand new. I'm a blank slate to you. And the first thing you're teaching me about yourself is that you are a victim, that you have trauma, that things are wrong with you. And I look at them like, what is that doing for your life? And it's like they learn these words and these titles to give themselves, and these act as the machine that act as like a coping mechanism, that act as like a protective shield around the thorn. But it's like, hey, why don't we just remove the thorn? You don't actually need to keep the thorn in you, right? And when you start to release it, here's what happens. You start to let things flow through again. You start to let life flow through. And the natural state of being in this relaxed place is akin to when you're driving down the road, right? Like you're a conscious observer of life. You're an awareness. You are here in your body. You're this soul. You're this spiritual being driving this physical body. You have an intellect. And as you go through life, the interesting thing is, check this out. You have a lot that comes in and passes through you. And this allows you to progress through life and experience experiences. And it's like driving down a road. Let's say you're on the side of the highway going up the Pacific Northwest, and there's millions of trees that you're just driving by. You're aware of those trees. You see them. You're coasting down the road at 60 miles an hour. You see all those trees. And as quickly as they come into your awareness, they pass out. You don't hold on to the trees. That's what life gives you the capacity to do. But when you get stuck on a trauma, when you get stuck on something from the past, it's like hyperfixating on a single tree, even though you passed it 60 miles ago. What ends up happening is, how hard would it be to drive forward if you're still fixated on that tree you saw minutes ago? What you actually end up doing is you turn around the car and you end up just sitting there staring at the tree, and you're just stuck at that one position. Instead, you've got to learn to let it pass through so that you can move on to the next experiences. Whether they're good experiences and they're high joy, or they're bad experiences, they're traumas and you feel pain, either way, you have to let them pass through you. It's healthy to operate from the from this place, because this is going to let you experience more of life, and it will let life give you more of the things that you say you desire. But when you're saying, I want to attract more, you're basically telling life, see, the issue is you're telling life, hey, I want to attract more, but I'm still trying to hold on to the last stuff you gave me. And life is like, well, look, if you want the new, you got to let go of the old. We're more than happy to give it to you, but we can't work with this vacuum. You got to full, this whole thing is filled, right? Like, how much new water can I put into this bottle if it's already filled? So you've got to let the old water pass through, and we can let the new water pass in. You have to relax through it. And what's interesting is, if you're not attracting what you want, if things aren't in your life aren't coming to you, I can tell you there's blockages. I don't know yet what your blockages are. Like, I'd have to sit down with you and actually dive into your personal history, start to dive into your psyche. But if things aren't coming to you, you have blockages. And that's not a negative thing. That's cool. Right? It's a life experience. Let's learn how to release the blocks. The reason we have blocks is so that we can learn how to release them. In fact, I see Tassim on Instagram saying, release things from the past. It's the only way to grow. Can't grow and sprout as a plant with old soil. Fresh soil with nutrients are vital. I like that. Okay. Ooh, I love this question. Tiffany asked, in your opinion, how long is too long to be stuck in the trauma? Great question. I would say any amount of time is too long to be stuck in the trauma. You don't need to hold on to any of it. See, not holding on to it doesn't mean it didn't happen. I think, and this is what people start to worry. Like, well, if I just release it, doesn't mean I don't care. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. We start to cling. If anyone's ever studied like Buddhist principles and things of that nature, you'll see that the Buddhists, they believe in non-attachment. That as long as you constantly keep attaching to things of this world, you will prevent yourself from reaching a higher state of enlightenment. Right? You're going to prevent yourself from reaching the higher state of being. Your purpose, in my opinion, your purpose here on earth as you're in this body is to level up. It's to level up your soul. When we look at, religions, what are they teaching us? They're teaching us to return back to the oneness, to return back to God, to return back to the unification of sorts. And so that's a leveling up from the present status. And so when we start to get attached, we are getting attached to what? We're getting attached to finite things in a finite world, in a finite universe. Or I'm sorry, in an infinite universe. We're attaching ourselves to finite things in an infinite universe. So we're staying stuck here when our job is to continue to expand and express. We have to keep going. A good friend of mine, Tara, she said this to me one day. We were out hiking, and I kept stopping every which way along the hike. Like, oh, look at this, Tara. Oh, look at that. Look at this. And at one point she said, yo, Marlon, this is all cool, but we have to keep going. It's like, we have to keep progressing. And I was always like, no, like, it's not going to get any better. Like, look at this. I was just loving. I was up in Sequoia National, loving every moment of it. And she kept reminding me, like, no, like, trust me, we have to keep going. And because we kept going, we eventually got to the top of this mountain where, I mean, the most beautiful views I had ever seen ever in my entire life. And she was right. There was better things ahead. There was your best days are ahead of you. There's better things in the future. There are new surprises. There's more novelty. There's more growth. There's more understanding. But if you stay stuck on what has already occurred, you cannot progress to the next level. You don't get to play the next level of the game. So it's important to release them. And the sooner to the trauma that you can deal with it and release it, the easier it is, because the emotions are there. And the way to release it is simple. Just release it. The way you release it is, don't hold on to it. I promise you, I'm not trying to be like, I'm not being silly. I'm not being like, that's not tongue in cheek. That's me being for real. The way to release is to release, to simply not hold on. And when the emotions, when the discomfort comes up, guys, discomfort isn't a bad emotion. It's not a bad feeling. It's an experience. What happens is we've labeled so many things good or bad. And so we try to avoid everything that's bad. not realizing that it wasn't inherently good or bad. It just was. It is what it is. And so there's a purpose. It serves a purpose. And that feeling comes up, experience it, and then let it go, let it pass through. But when you stop yourself from experiencing it, right? Like I don't want to feel it, like, and you disconnect from it. Well, then what ends up happening is you push it down and it never finished passing through you. And so it stays with you. And then there are triggers that start to pull it up. And before you know it, you're in the middle of dinner, you're in a conversation, you're talking to your kids, and something triggers you and your mood switches, you get discomfort and you don't know what to do. And you run away or you lash out or you react in a way that you didn't want to react because you never actually dealt with the traumas. I've had this happen to me, by the way. Like I've had from like childhood, I've had this fear of rejection, right? And I was explaining this to a friend over the weekend where when I was younger, my brother, he didn't want to spend a lot of time with me. I didn't have a lot of friends my age that I got to hang out with because like my family was very strict about after school, you come straight home. So in my house, like it wasn't like we had cousins coming over, and my older brother was basically the only other like boy around that I can hang out and play with. And he didn't want to play with me. And so anytime I would try to play with him, he would like to push me away, say no. And so I was like constantly getting rejected from him. And it put me into the place where I was like, well, every time I ask for what I want, I get rejected. I get told no. I get told I can't have it. And so it caused me to stop asking. And I didn't really deal with it because it would feel uncomfortable. I would just kind of press it down and I'd try to move on to something else. But because I never dealt with it, what started to happen was later on in my life, random triggers would cause it, that fear, that feeling to come back up. And I wouldn't know how to deal with it. I would just kind of freeze. I'd get stuck or I would react in a way that I didn't want to react. And it wasn't until I finally sat with it and allowed when it came up, stopped running away from it, but like I embraced it. I stepped into it and I felt all that there was to feel with it. And it was uncomfortable. It didn't feel good. Right. It's what I would call like it's not a feeling I would choose. Like I wouldn't wake up and say, I want to feel like this right now. But because I allowed myself to feel those feelings, I started to let go of it. It started to pass through me. And I started to find myself being comfortable and being confident, being myself more regularly in the rooms. I started to find myself in conversations asking for what I truly wanted, not pretending and not wearing a mask anymore. And all of this, by the way, when you start to live in that place of authenticity, when you're able to release and you can just be yourself in that place of letting things pass through you, guess what? You now start to turn on that dial for attraction. People are attracted to you, things are attracted to you. You start to open yourself up to the things that you say you desire. So love that. Let's keep it going here. All right, guys, we're gonna ooh. This one's a good one. I was just looking down at my notes. All right, this is gonna be the last one, and then we'll start to wrap it up here because I can feel my voice wanting a rest after doing 2 hours of Zoom this morning. But is this helpful so far? Are you guys getting like? Is this making sense? Are you getting some value from this, from what I'm sharing? I love what Noah says. He says, if you have to ask yourself those hard questions to be able to let go of the trauma, shadow work is something everybody runs away from because they don't want to feel that from their inside. I love that. A lot of people do run away from the shadow work. All right. Now, let's keep going here. And then we'll start to wrap this up. Anawful says, thank you. Appreciate you, Anawful. All right. Let's talk about this. Last bit is we have a tendency to give more faith and energy to believing the stories of why it won't work compared to believing and looking at the reasons why it will work, why it will happen. When you're not getting what you want and you're like, but I am trying to attract my goals. In fact, I just spoke with a newer investor earlier this morning, probably about 30 minutes before I started filming this. And they're working on this new investor group is working on getting their first wholesale deal. And as we're talking, I was looking at the deal and saying like, hey, you would have to get the property at a much deeper price than where you're currently looking at it. And they said to me, well, yeah, I hear you, but why would we can't get it that low. Why would they ever give it that low? And so the reason they're not getting the deals they want is because they are telling themselves a story of why it won't work. They have more faith in the system, on the belief system that it won't work versus having faith in the belief that it will work. And so your faith is going to be tested when you're wanting to bring goodness into your life. Your faith is absolutely going to be tested regularly. When I started business, I didn't get my first deal for 8 months. My faith was being tested. Do I believe that this will work? Do I trust the process? Do I believe it will work for me? And then when your faith is going to be tested, here's what's interesting. The only way to prove that your faith is strong, it's solid, is for you to stay the course. It's for you to commit to jumping off the cliff. It's for you to commit to taking action. Like you have to keep taking action. It's the only way. How do you guys know that, like if I didn't tell you my goals were what they were, how would you know I have those goals? How would you know that I believe it's going to work? It'd be simple. Like, what am I doing? What do you see my actions are? When a person believes in what they're doing, they're willing to show up. They're going to keep showing up even when the results aren't there. They're going to keep showing up like enthusiastically. They're going to go from failure to failure without losing any enthusiasm. They're going to keep investing into the preparation right there. I like to call it digging the ditches. If you think it's going to rain and you've been in a drought and you're like, we need the rainwater, if you have faith, you start digging the ditches to capture the water. Even though it's dry and barren all over you, you keep digging the ditches. So you've got to be able to place more faith in the dream and vision working out than in the doubt that you currently have. Doubt's an opportunity for you to overcome the faith. Doubt's the opportunity for you to overcome your lack of faith, I should say. And that's going to be shown in the decisions and how you choose to move forward, the action you choose to take from that place of doubt. If you choose to still step forward, even while holding on to that doubt, that, my friends, is how you start to overcome the doubt. It's now a behavior. So I love that. And Manny said took his first deal a year to close, right? Like that's commitment. He stayed true all the way to the end. All right. So guys, we're going to wrap this up for today. Hope this was helpful. If you got value from this, make sure you hit the like button. If this were a good reminder, please, I love that Tiffany says, great reminder. Thanks for sharing. If this was a good reminder, be sure to share this out with a friend. And what I want to do is I'm going to be bringing guests onto this podcast that I do here at noon. We used to do this not as a live. This was always a guest show. So we're going to be bringing guests back on. So be on the lookout for that. But guys, enjoy the rest of your Monday, and I'll talk to you soon.